All right, then, listeners, I have got a massive confession to make. I recently sent a voice note to today's guests, some of the hardest working northern dirtbags in the metal scene, basically gushing about how I just discovered their sound. And the response was chef's kiss. It was direct, it was unfiltered, and legendary. Benji just basically sent me a voice note sending, have you been living under a fucking rock or what? I mean, fair play to you, lads, because while I was under that rock, Waterlines were busy conquering the scene. They had decimated the Sophie Lancaster stage at Bloodstock last summer, and now they are tearing through 2026 with a brand new booking deal and a 100% mosh pit success rate. So I'm joined tonight by Benji from Waterlines. So, mate, welcome to the show.
Hello, Cookie. Thank you so much for having me on, man. This is awesome. I really appreciate it. And do you know what? If you could describe Waterlines in two words, it's that. It's unfiltered. And I forgot what the other word was that you said, but it was that one too. Like that's what we're about, man. That's what we're about.
Excellent. Well, let's address that rock that I was under. So you've said that your main goal is writing music specifically for a live crowd. Now, in a world of algorithms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, do you ever chuck away a riff just because it doesn't feel like it wouldn't start a riot in a pit?
We have. We have a lot of times. Look, everybody writes differently now, especially in the in the modern age of Zoom meetings and Teams calls and all that kind of stuff. And we've got 12 different WhatsApp groups all for different things and all that kind of stuff. It's that there's so much there's so many kind of little blockades, little hurdles in the way of human connection now. And I think that's where we're coming from, man. I grew up in the nu metal era. I grew up in the Slipknot era, the Linkin Park era, the Korn era, the Limp Bizkit at Woodstock '99 era. You know what I mean? Like that's when I grew up listening to music. That's what I aspired to be. So I think it's all about that for me. It's all about is what I'm trying to write here. Not only is it gonna land when you sort of sat on your own with your headphones in, but is it gonna land when you're surrounded by people you've never met before in a tent in the middle of a field in the middle of nowhere with people I've never met before? Is this gonna bring an audience together? That's what it's about. It's about togetherness, man. That's the whole thing. That's the journey.
Nice. And it's brilliant that you've discussed the nu metal era as well. I mean, myself, big fan of Korn. Growing up in that era, they were pretty much my go-to band. They were my gateway drug, as it were. But it's interesting because all of those have got really unique vocals as well. And a reviewer once described your vocals as, quote, singing like a bird one moment and growling like a bear with hemorrhoids the next. Is that the most accurate description of your range to date?
I mean, I don't know how he knows that I've got hemorrhoids. I was trying to keep him on the down low, man. But yeah, nah, I think again, it all comes back to raw emotion, right? It comes back to aggression. It comes back to but not all about aggression. There is that kind of sweet element to it as well. It's whatever I'm trying to portray at the time. So look, there are so many vocalists out there now who are technically just incredible. We're in the TikTok era, aren't we? You've got Alex the Terrible, you've got Lorna Shaw, you've got all these vocalists who have just perfected their craft, and have made a name, made a right big deal out of doing so. I guess I just never really wanted that. I never really wanted that kind of look, Will Ramos, Alex is terrible, all that, and please don't, I'm not taking away from that craft at all. But I didn't want that manufactured feel to my vocal ever. I never wanted that. I wanted raw emotion. I wanted it to sound just like me. I want you to be able to listen to a song and say, "Oh shit, that's Benji from Waterlines. I recognize that the slight northern twang in those screams. Like I know that, man. So it was always about authenticity. It was always about that. And look, if that makes me sound like a bear with hemorrhoids, then so be it.
I mean, you got like when I heard Sinister, it's got such an energy to it. The first notes just blew me away, and that was why I had to get you on the show. But I want to talk a little bit more about that energy. So you guys, you as you've said, you've got the new metal energy behind you. You blend that new metal with warehouse rave energy. After the absolute madness of Bloodstock 2025, do you feel like you finally convinced the serious metalheads that it's okay to have a party in the pit?
Yeah, so we had a real soul-seeking discussion before we got on stage at Bloodstock. We'd just recorded, and we hadn't, I don't think we'd released it yet, but we just recorded our cover of the absolute Ultra Beat classic, Pretty Green Eyes. And we just recorded that cover, and we were still in the infancy of the band. We were still kind of figuring out just how authentic to ourselves can we be before we start turning people off, you know? So we were at Bloodstock, and look, Bloodstock is a very, very metal festival, you know. It was born in the dirt. It was born in the filth of the metal scene. This is for the fans, by the fans. This is proper metal, yeah. So we've turned up there, and we're playing with synths, and we're doing covers of noughties dance classics and all that sort of stuff. And we're thinking, like, should we play this song? Should we play Pretty Green Eyes at Bloodstock Festival? Is this gonna go down like a lead balloon, or could it be a stroke of genius? And we did. I think we were playing on the Saturday, and it was right up until that Saturday morning where we were like, oh, does this stay in the set? Does it need to come out the set? Oh my God, what are we gonna do? And look, we got on that stage and we played it. And look, I have got to accept that I didn't give the Bloodstock crowd their dues. Those guys know how to party, man. They want to party just as much as everybody else. And look, that was a really big, really intense kind of learning curve for us to say that in the world that I've kind of already touched on it, in the TikTok era, in the YouTube era, in the YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels era, and everyone behind a screen, that kind those hurdles to human connection, all of those sorts of things. I think people are craving it, man. I think that people up and down the country, in all different scenes, in all different walks of life and music, are just craving that authentic connection, that authentic, real, true self. That a lot of us, put in a bit of a cupboard for a lot of our lives, and I think there's a little fairy wanting to come out of all of us, whether that be, there's a million different things, sexuality, gender, all of those different things. I think we've all got something that's closeted. And I think that, Waterlines are trying to bring that out of everyone.
Going from one end of the spectrum with your tracks, Pretty Green Eyes, let's talk about Brace. Is writing about these end of life moments a way of spitting out the bile for you guys?
Yeah, definitely. Brace was a really interesting one. So we'd just come back from so Simon, our drummer, and probably no, definitely the best musician in the band. He's the one who keeps us going, man. He's the grease in the wheels. And we'd just come back from Simon's stag do. We were over in Belgium. And we'd had a great time, but we were feeling a little bit worse for wear. So we were on this plane on the way back. You're listening to the classic, where they're telling you where the exits are, and you've got the kind of pre-flight spiel that they go through, and you're listening out, but you adopt this position when you hear the pilot say the words "brace, brace," and So I was chatting with Simon after it, and look, it was just kind of one of those conversations that was there was nothing to it. It was a fleeting conversation, and we just said, Jesus, imagine what that feels like. Imagine what that feels like to be strapped into a chair in a metal box in the air, and you hear the word brace, and you go, shit, this is it. Like, and I think that that kind of intensity, that kind of visceral experience, there are so many of us that are never going to experience anything like that, and there are going to be a hell of a lot of people who have experienced something like that and aren't going to be able to tell us what it was like. So I think you've got to dig deep for stuff like that. You've got to, I think that there's it's very the classic way of writing music is to write from experience, and it's a really different thing. In my experience, it's a really different thing to write without experience, to write without any experience, and to write from a place that is essentially made up. I've been lucky enough in my life so far not to ever have to hear the words brace brace, but to kind of reach somewhere into my soul and try and think, Jesus, what must that feel like? Like what would you be thinking? Where would you be in your head in that time? So it was quite a tough track to write. Because sometimes you're trying to find the words and they don't have enough weight behind them. They just don't feel heavy enough. They don't feel intense enough to get across what you want to get across. So yeah, I think when you write a song like Brace, yeah, you've got to dig deep. You've got to find something inside you that yeah, like you say, you can't just speak the words. You've got to spit them. You've got to scream them. You've got to yell them. You've got to growl them and grind them out. And it's about being able to find something like that, which can be quite a rough place to go.
Well, okay, let's look to the future then. So 2026, sorry, is looking absolutely massive for you guys. You've just signed with Midnight Mango. You're hitting Takedown Festival in Portsmouth, and you've got Teddy Rocks and the Flapper in May. With the new EP in the works, how much heavier is Waterlines sound going to get this year?
So we're always walking that line. Look, yes, we want heavy because that's who we are. We're at our very, very core. We are, we're a metal band. We want to be heavy. We want to be aggressive. We want all that stuff. But I think also we are always walking that line of being heavy, yes, but also we kind of do want to be the band that's got a little bit of something for everyone. We don't want to be a band that is, lock and key into our little microcosm of the musical universe. We want to expand. We want to spread our wings. We want a bit of this. We want a bit of that. We want some melody. We want some heavy. We want some raw aggression. We want all of these different things. So, I mean, yes, there probably is the classic. We've written the heaviest song we've ever written. There's some proper filth on the way. But I think on top of that, we've also written the lightest, the most melodic song we've ever written as well. There is a song coming that doesn't have a single guitar in it. There's a song coming that is like a noughties rave all over again. And it's heavy and yes, it's aggressive, but man, it's life affirming as well, man. Um, we've got a song coming that we wrote after a show that we played, a really small show, which in one way and another left the room covered in blood and broken glass. There is, yeah, we've had some stories, we've had some experiences that we wanted to get across, we wanted to write about, and that we wanted to really kind of just convey in that live setting. This album yet again was written for a live audience, and it's gonna be yes, it's gonna be different. There's gonna be growth in the sound, but it's still unapologetically Waterlines.
Beautiful. And before we let you go, for those like me who were at one point under a rock, where can they find you next to join the Daisy Chain gang?
So the next one we've got is Takedown, which is the 4th of April down in Portsmouth. And actually, after that, we very recently announced a show in Leeds with the legendary Skindred, which I am shockingly excited for. That is going to be so good. They're out on an album release tour. They're doing a record label signing, a record signing, and all that kind of stuff. And then they're going to play a show at the Leeds Student Union. After that, we go out with our mates in Seed and Akira, which is where we hit Teddy Rocks Festival, we hit Canal Fest, and then we come back via Birmingham. That's in May. Look, there's so much going on, man. The socials are on fire recently. The calendar is on fire. The diary hasn't been closed. It's kind of one of those years where we're kind of able to pick the fruits of our labor now. We had a big year last year. We played to some big crowds. We released some big music, and it was time now to be able to go out and play that and show everybody that we're not one trick ponies, and we're going to do something a bit different, and we're going to keep climbing and keep grafting. So look, if there was ever a time to be a new member of the Daisy Chain gang, if there was ever a time to be a new member of our family, it's now. It's an exciting time to be a Waterlines fan, mate.
We got a brand new listener from me. So massive thanks to you, Benji, for joining me tonight. These guys, they're not just a band. They are a moshers party, and I am all here for it. You've heard the man, guys. Head over to the YouTube, Spotify. Check the links in the bio. Get your tickets for their gigs coming up this summer. And as always, if you ain't headbanging yet, what the hell are you even doing? Benji, thank you so much for joining me, man.
Thank you so much for having me on, man, and thank you for everybody for listening.